my channel. My name is Emily, and today's video is going to be a quick pregnancy update plus pregnancy Q&A. I asked you guys on Instagram quite a while ago if you had any questions for me regarding this pregnancy, and I have been really busy and haven't had a chance to get them answered in a video for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and do that today because we actually I had a lot of questions about the gender, and I'm finding out the gender soon. So I wanted to go ahead and do this video before the gender reveal video comes out. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. First, I'm gonna give you guys like a little pregnancy update as far as where we are in the pregnancy, and then answer the questions that you guys have. If you're new to my channel, my name is Emily. I am a wife, I am a homemaker, and I'm a mama to a 10-month-old little boy, and then of course this baby that is on the way, due March 14th. Other questions about the gender, do I have a preference? No, I do not have a preference. Lord willing, this is not going to be our last child. We have always said we wanted 4 children, so it's not our last chance to have a girl. If I know people are gonna think I want a girl, and I would love to have a girl, I would, but I don't really care what the gender is. I'll be happy with either. If it's a little boy, then Cade will have a little best bunny, a little best buddy, and if it's a little girl, then I'll have a little princess. So it really doesn't matter to me. But a lot of people asked if I have an intuition on the gender, and I honestly don't even want to say because I had an intuition with him. I thought he was a girl for the longest time, and then right before we went for the ultrasound, I dreamed like multiple times in a row in the same night that it was a boy. So by the time we went to the ultrasound, I kind of knew it was a boy, but I thought he was a girl. But I will say that with him, I thought in my head it was a girl, but in my heart, I felt like it was a boy. With this one, I have felt like this one is a girl. Like in my heart, I feel like this one is a girl. But in my head, I'm like, it's probably a boy, because the chances of me having another boy is pretty high, since I've already had a boy, and the sex chromosome or sex, that part of the DNA is determined by the man. So, and my husband, they don't have any girls in their family, like no biological girls in their family. So, you know, the chances of me having a boy is pretty high. So I've got that in my head, but then in my heart, I feel like it's a girl. So I don't know. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, but I don't know. At this point, I'm like, I mean, it's gonna go one way or the other. So I'm trying not to say that it's gonna be one thing or another, but if I had to guess, I would say girl, but I could be completely and totally wrong. I got a couple questions regarding how has this pregnancy differed from my first pregnancy. And in the beginning, because I did know that I was pregnant before I took the pregnancy test, like deep down I knew. And I had symptoms a lot earlier on. See, when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I didn't know when it happened. I didn't know, basically the sign to me was that I was late. I did not have morning sickness. I did not have like tender breast area. I didn't have any of that with him until after I found out I was pregnant. The only weird thing that I had with him was I got a random cold that just sprung up overnight and then disappeared like in a couple of days. And then I also had really bad stomach pains, but I just kind of attributed all the stomach pains to my period possibly starting, but it didn't. So I waited till I was a week late with him before I took a pregnancy test. With this baby, I was already on pregnancy lookout and I had symptoms so fast. Like I had symptoms within a week of conceiving, and like all the subtle changes, like your stomach starting to get hard and being bloated, you know, other changes up here that happen. My sense of smell was heightened like so fast. Before I ever took a pregnancy test, I had only been, technically, I'd been pregnant, I guess, for like a week, if that, and I hadn't taken a test yet because you're supposed to wait 2 weeks until your period's missing. I had only been pregnant a week, had not found out yet, but I was sitting on the bed next to my husband, and there was a cup of coffee, like cold coffee, on the night table, and I was like, do you smell that coffee? And he was like, no. I was like, I smell it just like it's sitting under my nose. And he looked at me and he's like, okay, well, we're going to name the baby. He's like, you are pregnant. If you are smelling that coffee, you are pregnant. So my symptoms came on really, really quickly. And then I had some other symptoms once I found out I was pregnant, once I officially confirmed it. And I confirmed it, like I waited a week and a half and I took a first response test like 3 days before my expected period and got a positive. It was a very faint positive, but I got a positive on 2 first response tests. And then I took a clear blue. The clear blue said not pregnant, but those are not really good for detecting really early. So I knew I was pregnant at that point. I waited until Saturday when I was supposed to start Friday, I think. And I waited till Saturday and took another clear blue and it said pregnant. So once I found out I was pregnant, I had some cramping and I had what would be classified as some spotting. I don't think I would even classify it as spotting, but that's what the doctor's office classified it as. And so this is where I talk about thinking it's a girl. When I was having those symptoms, which I had not had with my first pregnancy, I didn't have any spotting, and I don't remember having any cramping with my first pregnancy. So when I started having that with this one, I was really scared that I was going to miscarry because that's not something that I had had last time. And I don't know, I ended up having to go back to the doctor for them to test because they did the blood pregnancy test, and then they had me come back and do it again because I was having the spotting a couple of days later because they wanted to make sure that my HCG levels were still going up. And so the whole time that I was worried about this, in my head I kept thinking, this is a girl. I don't know why I kept thinking that, but I kept thinking that, and like I said, I could be totally wrong. And if I'm wrong, if it's a boy, I'm going to be just as happy with a boy. And in fact, when we first found out we were pregnant, I was like, oh, I hope it's a boy. Because we already have everything for a boy. We love for Cade to have a little best buddy. But in my head, I'm like, or in my heart, I guess I should say, I felt like it was a girl. So it may be a boy, might be a girl, I don't know. But like when I was having those symptoms, that's what kept repeating in my head, that this is a girl. But those symptoms went away within like a week. They said the cramping was more than likely just because my uterus was starting to expand and things were changing and my body was kind of freaking out because I was only 6 months postpartum. So my body was kind of freaking out a little bit. But they said that it wasn't anything, so we were good. And then we had our 8-week ultrasound and everything looked beautiful. So that was really comforting and reassuring. But that was definitely something that was different from my last pregnancy. And then also I usually start getting morning sickness around 6 weeks. That's when it hit with my last one. But with my last pregnancy, it was very mild. It was more like a yucky feeling and I had a lot of food aversions. But this time it was a lot more pronounced. I only threw up once. But I had just a lot more nausea all day long, just feeling gross and awful. And the amount of food that I could eat was like, the list was like this long. I lived on French fries and like carbs because nothing else sounded good. And like I would want something really bad and I would eat it and then I would not want it again. So it was like my list was just getting shorter and shorter. I didn't cook a lot in that first 2 months because I just couldn't stand it. So the first trimester was a lot harder, plus being a lot more tired. Like I don't remember with my first being so tired, but it was probably because I was home and I was, which I worked I think for the most of my first trimester, but even working, I feel like I wasn't that tired. I was tired, but not that tired. This time I felt like a bear that wanted to go into hibernation. I was so tired, and I still get really tired, but I've got that second trimester energy going on. But in the first trimester, I was like, I am dying. I was so tired all the time. All I wanted to do was sleep. So those are some differences that I've noticed with my first and second pregnancy. But as far as right now, everything's pretty much the same, except I showed a lot sooner. and I'm showing a lot more. The way my stomach looks now is the way my stomach looked with Cade at like 7 months, and I'm only 4 months. So, or I'm like, yeah, technically I think I'm only about 4 months. So, you know, I don't know how my stomach is supposed to stretch out all the way till March, but we'll see. Somebody asked, how do you manage your first child when you're pregnant? You just basically survive. I feel like the first 2 months it was pure survival mode, because I mean my husband helped a lot when he was home. When he was able to be home, he would take Cade so that I could take a nap. It was definitely a team effort, but you just kind of survive. My homemaking fell way behind. Like I said, I didn't cook much. And if I did cook, it was really easy, simple. I did a lot of freezer stuff, which I don't like to do, but I had like frozen pizza, frozen chicken nuggets, frozen french fries, because I just couldn't, I was too tired and sick to do a whole lot. So a lot of days were just spent in bed or on the couch with the baby, because I just didn't feel good. So it's basically just survival and a team effort between you and your spouse. There's not really a routine, so to speak, that I can name. It was like basically I let go of my routine for those 2 months. Just completely let go of it, let everything slide, and I figured I'll just, you know, do what I can, and everything else can get caught up when I feel better. So, you know, just a lot of grace. Give yourself a lot of grace, because, you know, especially having another little one to take care of. You know, I have this other little child that needs my attention, needs me all the time, and I couldn't just forsake him because I didn't feel good. So it just takes a lot of grace and a lot of prayer to just get it done, and then just don't worry about the other stuff as much, which is really hard. I know it's really hard. It's really hard for me to let stuff go, to like let the house go, to let meals go and stuff like that. But sometimes you just have to, and if you don't, you know, you can't help it if you don't feel good. Your body is growing a baby. Your body is doing so much work to grow a baby, and then you're also trying to take care of a little one. And so I have a quote that is like my favorite quote, and I don't even know who it was by, but it says, if at the end of the day everybody feels loved, you've done your job. And I go back to that quote, not even just in the first trimester, but anytime I'm having a hard day and I feel like nothing got done. It's like, as long as at the end of the day my husband feels loved, my baby feels loved, my family feels loved, then I've done my job. You know, if the house isn't clean, that's not what they're going to remember. My baby, my little son, is not going to remember whether or not my house was spotless. He's going to remember if I sat in the floor and played toys with him. So don't be too hard on yourself, because it is hard in the first trimester. It's going to be hard. I'm sure it's going to be hard. I mean, it's still hard, and it's going to be hard irregardless. I mean, nothing that is worth doing is easy, but you just got to give yourself grace. Somebody asked, do I think that giving birth a second time will be easier? And I have no idea. My first birth went really, really smoothly and really easily. If you want to read my birth story, I'll leave it linked down below. But my first birth story was it went very smoothly. I did have medical intervention. I was induced. But as far as like actually giving birth, I wasn't in labor that long, considering it was my first baby and I was induced. And he came rather quickly when it came to me pushing. I only pushed for an hour, which was such a blessing that I did not have to push longer than an hour. But I pushed for an hour and he was there. So I feel like my first experience went really well. And I know, like with my mom, her labor sped up each time with each child, so I don't know if I'll be that way. So I really don't know, because every birth experience is different. The one thing, well, somebody asked if there's anything I'll do different this time, and I'm going to talk about that, but one thing that has always terrified me is C-section. I'm just scared of C-section, so I just am praying that I don't have to have that. But I really don't know. I hope it'll be easier. It'd be great if it was easier, because my first was a breeze, but I just don't know. Everyone is different. So as far as if I'm doing anything different this time around, one of my goals with the pregnancy is to drink a lot more water than I did last time. I drank water last time, but there was a lot of days that I did not drink enough water, and it is so, so crucial to drink plenty of water when you're pregnant. So I think I didn't bring my water in here. I've started using like a cup that keeps it cold all day, and I drink lemon water all the time. So one of my goals was to drink more water. I really wanted to exercise more, but I have exercised less with this pregnancy than I did with my first. With my first, I would go on walks every morning, and with this one, it's a little harder to just take off on a walk because I have to get him ready, get him in the stroller and all that. So I need to get back on track with exercising, but I'm doing pretty good with my water drinking. There are a few things that I plan to do different medically that I don't really want to talk about because I don't want all my medical information out there. But one thing that I definitely want to do is, or do not want to do, is I do not want to be induced again. Like I said earlier, I know they've got my due date overshot a little bit, or not overshot, undershot. So they've got me due like sooner than when I will actually be due, because like I said, due dates are just an estimation, and they're estimated by the first day of your last period. And I tried to tell them, I know when this happened. I know exactly how far along that I am, but they don't go by that. They only go by the first day of your last period. So I know that if the baby doesn't come by the due date, they're gonna want to induce me. And I know that if the baby hasn't come by that point, it's because the baby's not ready to come. So I am going to tell them I don't want to be induced this time. Inducement wasn't bad, but I mean, and it was kind of nice to have it planned. But the thing is, number one, I wanted to experience natural labor. I wanted to experience like going into labor and what real labor contractions feel like, because induced contractions are more intense, like they go directly to intensity. And plus they did the Folly balloon with me, which I hated that. I mean, it shaved a lot of time off of my labor, which was great, but I hated it. It hurt. So I really don't want to do any of that. I really want to just be able to let my body go into labor naturally. So that's one thing I will be doing. I also will be talking to my doctor about delayed cord clamping, which you can look it up if you don't know what that is, but basically it's delaying cutting the cord because there's a lot of the baby's blood that's still in the placenta, and if you delay cord clamping, if you delay cutting the cord, that blood can get back into your baby's body. It's really good for their immune system, and then of course it's their blood, so it's really good for them to get that back into their body. There's a lot of benefits to delayed cord clamping, so I am going to be talking to her about that. As far as if I will have another epidural or whatever, I don't know. The epidural was really nice. It was really amazing, and it made me feel no pain. After the epidural, I felt no pain, and I have not had any complications from the epidural. But the thing that does scare me about getting another epidural is, you know, each time you get one, there's always going to be a risk. There's always going to be a certain percentage of people that get an epidural that have spinal leaks, that have headaches, that get problems, back problems, different things related to an epidural, because it's literally a needle going into your spine. But I'm not going to say never. Just like I did with my first pregnancy, I'm not going to say never. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to have one, because more than likely I probably will. But it is something that I'm thinking about and trying to figure out whether I want to do that again, but I probably will. But like I said, I don't want to be induced. I want to talk to them about delayed cord clamping. And then there are a few other things that I am definitely going to be doing different for me and the baby, and I'm not going to talk about those on here because I just don't want all of my medical information out there. And then the last question is, will we reveal the name? Because if you've been following me since my son was born, you know that we did not reveal his name until he was born. And my reason for that was because I've had names stolen in the past, baby names that I loved that have gotten stolen before. So I didn't want to share the name and then somebody that's further along than me take the name. Not that I had anybody in particular that I thought would do that, but it was just like this fear of mine that I would share a name and then it would get stolen. But with this one, I think as soon as we figure out the name, we will share it. I have a girl name. I don't have a boy name. My husband and I cannot agree on a boy name, and boy names are hard. Boy names are very hard. We had a middle name picked out for a boy with Cade. Like he has the same middle name as like half our family, so that was easy. His first name, we just ran across it and really liked it. But boy names are harder. So, you know, I don't know. If it's a girl, we'll probably announce the name when we announce the gender. If it's a boy, we're not going to announce the name until we figure it out. But whenever we have the names 100% written in stone, we will announce it. But because I don't want to wait till it's born this time, because I had a lot of people asking me, what's the name, what's the name, what's the name? And I got tired of explaining why I didn't want to share the name. So we're going to be sharing it this time, but we got to get it nailed down in stone first. But I think that was all the questions that I had about this pregnancy so far. Thank you guys for sending me questions. Thank you for everybody who has reached out to me to see how I'm feeling or anything like that. I really appreciate that. Thank you guys on YouTube for bearing with me, because I know I've not been the most consistent uploader lately. Life is really busy, but I plan to get back to more consistent uploads. But I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, and also make sure that you're subscribed if you haven't subscribed already, if you found my content interesting. And I will see you guys in my next video. Y'all have a great day. Bye.